The ocean. Restless, powerful, hiding secrets below in fathoms still undiscovered. It is through these waters that North American trading partners move the majority of their commodities: fuel oils, chemicals, grains, coal, and lumber, to ports all over the world, representing over $500 billion of trade annually and hundreds of thousands of jobs. Success in maritime commerce is measured by maximizing cargo load and getting from point of origin to port of destination safely, efficiently, and on time. There is a great deal at stake every time a ship is in transit. With each additional foot of cargo draft worth an average of $150,000, the risks involved are very real. Collision avoidance is a major concern with every ship's captain, particularly in busy ports and waterways. And groundings and collisions, although rare, cause loss of life and tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue. And the potential for disastrous environmental impact is tremendous. Rapid advances in computer and satellite technology have made the concept of electronic chart technology for marine navigation possible today. And the Canadian Hydrographic Service and its private sector partners are committed to the development of what has been called the most significant improvement in navigation in the past 100 years. A great deal of cargo carried by ships into our waterways is considered hazardous. And with ships the size of small cities jockeying for position in busy sea lanes and attempting to maneuver in crowded ports, the need for risk management is more important than ever. Captain McPherson is the master of a marine Atlantic ferry that makes regular crossings between Digby, Nova Scotia and St. John, New Brunswick. Here, weather conditions are often extreme, and the tides and currents are among the strongest in the world. Marine Atlantic recently installed an Ecdis system on board this vessel, the Princess of Acadia.
Our best use, or the most we use it for, is precise navigation for docking, actual docking. And it's that accurate that we take it right up to the dock and do the actual docking with this. In the bay here we have lots of fog. Probably the foggiest place in the world. And there's times you can't see the bow. But with this system here, we know exactly where you are. You know your ship's head, your speed. It's all, the icon of the ship is the scale of the ship. It's doing exactly what we're doing in actual time. So I can look at it and it's overlaid on the chart, so I know exactly what I'm doing on the chart. Just watch yourself steam right in the harbor. It's something, it's total departure from what, we used radar before.
Survey methods using lead lines and sextant were used right up until the introduction of echo sounders in the 1930s. Today, it is possible with multi-beam, laser technology, and bathymetric systems to survey 100% of the ocean floor. In this scenario, there are no secrets under the water. More than simply a graphics display, Ecdis is a real-time GIS operating tool that continuously determines a vessel's position in relation to land, charted objects, aids to navigation, and unseen hazards. With this kind of information, Ecdis represents an entirely new approach to navigation and piloting. But how much information is enough? How will Ecdis chart data and updates get to the users, and in what form? The International Maritime Organization and the International Hydrographic Organization continue to work with the hydrographic offices of maritime nations to develop and confirm standards for the use of EC system hardware, software, and data. This cooperative process will assist countries to move to a standard DX90 data format, will provide guidance to support private sector manufacturers of EC system software, and will further the concept of regional distribution data centers. Brian Terry is president of Nautical Data International. His company is in the business of managing digital data information provided by the Canadian Hydrographic Service and other hydrographic offices around the world. This data then becomes the foundation of Ecdis and electronic chart systems worldwide. Brian explains the concept of the Electronic Chart Distribution Center.
By the year 2000, there will be tens of thousands of vessels that have to carry Ecdis. And those same vessels will have systems on board that allow them to receive digital data for a variety of purposes, no matter where they are in the world. The infrastructure that we're developing in Canada is suitable or is in line with the infrastructure that is being planned for other areas of the world. And what the scenario calls for is that there will be regional centers for distribution of chart data that will be linked up. For example, in Northern Europe, there will be a regional center. There will be a center in the Mediterranean. There will likely be a center in North America. The respective hydrographic offices will be connected to that center and will provide their data. The center will take the data and put it into standard formats for a region, and then through communications and other means get it to the end user.
Given the level of sophistication of our business environment today and technological advances, particularly in the area of electronic charts display information systems, it's difficult to imagine that 50 years ago, radar and sonar were new navigation concepts. Prior to that, ship's mates and captains relied exclusively on visual observations which were plotted on paper charts. If they could see it, they could get to it. This made it rather difficult at night, however, or under overcast skies or foggy conditions to see shore features. Maritime navigation today relies almost exclusively on global positioning, using satellite data displayed on Ecdis-type systems for maneuvering in both the open ocean and in narrower waterways, providing 3-meter accuracy and continuous real-time positioning. The Canadian Coast Guard are providing differential global positioning service to cover both coasts and the St. Lawrence and Great Lakes waterways. The U.S. Coast Guard are providing the same service to their coastline. In a recent joint venture between the Canadian Hydrographic Service, the Canadian and U.S. Coast Guard, and Offshore Systems International of Vancouver, sea trials were conducted to compare the traditional style of navigation to Ecdis-type navigation systems. The results showed conclusively that mariners using the Ecdis system showed a higher confidence level and ability to navigate in high traffic and low visibility situations. The technology is making a difference, according to Julian Goodyear, a master mariner and hydrographer with the Canadian Hydrographic Service.
With the studies at the Marine Institute, conducted by simulation off Halifax Harbour, we did prove that mariners could indeed stay in the traffic lanes much better with the Ecdis than without it, and this gave them a much better degree of confidence. I think one of the real advantages of Ecdis has not been realized yet. I think that one of the major advantages for any mariner with utilizing Ecdis will be making landfall for the first time in an area that he has not been in before, or an area that he's not been familiar with.
Captain Steve Pauley of the Canada Steamship Line's vessel H.M. Griffiths is carrying 30,000 tons of coal en route to Hamilton Harbour on Lake Ontario. Although originally hesitant about using Ecdis, Captain Pauley now finds Ecdis to be an important addition to his bridge.
We have found that the ECPIN system has been a use on this vessel. We have officers in their 60s and in their 20s, and all have been able to readily adapt to the controls. We have the capability of having a monitor in any room that you wish. I have one down in my cabin that I can always turn on and look at or leave on. I always know what the ship is doing, where it's at. And it's very useful to have another tool on hand to make a decision, as the decisions made are very seldom ever made on one piece of equipment.
Canada Steamship Lines is the largest commercial fleet in Canada. In 1993, CSL committed its entire domestic fleet to the use of Ecdis. Captain John Pace is Director of Navigation, Ports and Safety for CSL.
In the early days of our experience with Ecdis, masters who had been very used to the use of radar going into reduced visibility pilotage situations on the Great Lakes. And we're obviously confident in the application of their skills with radar to ensure a safe passage in pilotage waters. Very quickly after a minimum assessment of Ecdis, very quickly started making a transfer away from the radar towards the Ecdis to get information that they would use to make a navigation decision. In fact, the way our mariners put it is they were going into a reduced visibility situation on radar and coming out on Ecdis. The St. Lawrence Seaway Authority has for the last year allowed Canada Steamship Line ships to proceed down the St. Lawrence Seaway system after the buoys have been withdrawn. Where normally there are daylight navigation restrictions only, we've been proceeding in all visibility conditions, day or night. We're in the business of carrying cargo, but our first job is carrying it safely. Ecdis allows us to do that better than we've ever been able to do it in the past.
The Canadian Hydrographic Service has been actively spearheading the research, development, and use of Ecdis systems since the late 80s. In the United States, the push toward this technology is largely the result of the efforts of the U.S. Coast Guard, who immediately recognized the value of Ecdis, and whose participation in the Canadian pilot project prompted them to install Ecdis on many of their vessels. On the Mississippi River between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, close to 200 million tons of goods is moved each year. All of this in a waterway that is very narrow, and where radar contact is lost with every bend in the river. Captain Douglas Grubbs is a river pilot based in New Orleans.
I've been a pilot on deep draft vessels in this Mississippi River for 27 years. I've been working as a master and a pilot for 35 years here. And I can tell you, traffic here is close and personal. It's not unusual for two deep draft vessels to meet within 50 to 100 feet of one another. You have to because of the hydrodynamic effects of the river. This can be a very safe river if educated masters exercise good judgment, educated pilots exercise good judgment. It can be safe. But it's only as good as the equipment that you use. If people make mistakes in this river, a collision is almost non-avoidable. If people make serious mistakes in this river, they'll sink. People will die. What I need as a pilot, I need to know what's right ahead of me, what's behind me. I need an overview, what's around the next point, behind the next bend. I need to know where traffic is 15 miles, 5 miles, and 2 miles from me. I need to set up meeting and passing situations within a half mile, 100 feet, or 10 miles. I need to make sure that if I have a hazardous cargo vessel, I don't meet other hazardous cargo vessels or large encumbered vessels in critical points. I need to know what the current velocity is. I need to know what the water level is, real-time information. This is an unforgiving river. We've got to maximize the use of this waterway, but we've got to do it safely. We need the current electronics available. We need Ecdis. We need electronic charting systems. People have to be able to make fast decisions. They've got to process mega amounts of information and make quick, accurate decisions. And they can do that with the help of Ecdis. Ecdis is very fast, very accurate, and it will be an enhancement to navigation.
For reasons explained by Captain Grubbs, safety is the primary motivation for the U.S. Coast Guard to establish vessel traffic management in these areas. Captain Ed Rawlinson, United States Coast Guard.
Ecdis represents the greatest advancement since voice radio, which enables the VTS to deliver to the mariner a wealth of information which heretofore has never been possible. For example, information like current, tides, water level, the location of other vessels in the waterway, intentions, direction, movement of other vessels in the waterway. In effect, placing at the disposal of the mariner a composite picture, the same as might be displayed at the VTS without the intrusion of the VTS by voice radio.
Although safety is the primary objective for any Ecdis system, it's also a very effective bottom line tool for shipping company executives and port management corporations. Jean-Luc Bedard.
We all realized that the electronic charts was the best tool to show that the river is a dynamic environment. The water level changed, the bottom changed. So actually the paper chart doesn't show that dynamism. If you can have the information all transmitted to the navigator in a dynamic way, people will have better information. By having better information, they can take good decisions, which means for us, which is very important, to use the full capacity of the channel. And to use the full capacity of the channel means that maybe for the same amount of water, roughly you can load more safely, because you have the right information. So to load more means profit for our customer, and they need to be profitable. A container vessel that you have here in the Port of Montreal, each inches means 150 tons. 150 tons means roughly 10 containers. So depending, you can see the revenue if you can add 6 inches. Then that means you have 60 more containers, which is half a train. You put a foot more, you had 120 containers. That means a whole train, a whole block unit train that can be transported just by using what is already there.
That the future that we have been looking for 400 or 500 years is now here through the technology available in Ecdis. And any future development of Ecdis will not be as momentous or as critical to the mariner as this one bringing together of data, accurate positioning, and an electronic chart displayed on a video screen. One real need for us in the future development of Ecdis is to not stop now, to not rest on our laurels. We're nowhere near where we need to be when it comes to Ecdis, and we've nowhere near fulfilled the potential for Ecdis. That much is very clear.
The trend toward widespread use of Ecdis is inevitable. The Canadian Hydrographic Service and its partners are working hard to resolve several outstanding issues relating to the development and use of Ecdis, such as chart availability and delivery, chart updating, data integrity, display protocols, large-scale charts, and customization. But whichever form Ecdis takes on, and the technology used to employ it today and into the next century, the goal of the Canadian Hydrographic Service is to ensure a safe, ecologically, and economically viable waterway. Ecdis technology has revolutionized marine navigation in the 20th century and represents the beginning of a new era for the maritime community worldwide.